Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today I'm going to be talking about HTBX, Heat Biologics Incorporations. Make sure to drop a like in this video to help this channel grow, subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on, and share at the very end. I'm going to be going through technical analysis first, and then I'm going to move forward towards the company's perspective, in depth through other financials or presentations, latest news and what to anticipate on, as well as what I think about the stock at the very end. First things first, the 1 month, 1 day perspective, and what we get to see here is a little bit of mixed news, and you get to see that it did have quite a good run at 430, and then it hit, and then it kind of almost traded a little bit sideways towards the down path. Now, one of the good news here is that the stock seems to be, well, even though it's sitting in at a neutral, but it's in the oversold phase of the current stock right now. It's at the very bottom. Moving on towards momentum, it seems that it's still losing momentum, yet it still has a bit more momentum than it did on the 15th of July, although the momentum is going downwards. Now, in terms of MACD, and this one is a bit concerning, you get to see the MACD has gone quite positive for a while, and then it kind of decreased a little bit on the 22nd and continued to dip downwards. Now, the MACD line is above the signal line, and once that kind of crosses down, that would be perhaps a confirmed reversal in terms of the negative side, and that's where you would expect the price to even drop further. Volume seems to have picked up a bit today compared to the day before, even though with this decrease still. Looking into the stock, you get to see it's in the trading action zone, which is the 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA, and the price is in the trading action zone. That's where reversals can happen. So what you can see is a bit of a jump here, where you might see a little bit due to the trading action zone, a little bit of a bounce reversal there. Stock price is still above the 50 SMA and the 200 SMA, so that still makes it technically bullish. The average directional index is a little bit too high, and that's usually a warning sign once it's above 50, that basically it is in a dangerous zone where it can go, where the trend can really break down. And we're talking about the positive trend that the average directional index was directing to. Now going in towards the 1 hour intervals, what we'll get to see is on the MACD, it seems to have gone quite of a -1, and it seems to have gone a little bit positive, although that might be very much short-lived. And what we get to see is that kind of strength just happening in on the positive side. This stock has bled quite a little, and so you might want to be very careful on trading this one. Average directional index is sitting in at 39. Now, this does show that there could be a possibility of a very strong trend happening towards the red in this case. The stock price has broken towards under the 200 SMA today on the 1 hour interval, which is a very bearish sign. It broke under the 50 SMA, again bearish, and the 30 EMA is above the 10 SMA, that is as well bearish. Now moving on towards William percent R, it's sitting somewhere around neutral, not overbought or oversold, just because it did have a bit of a spike there. In terms of momentum, the stock seems to have very close to zero momentum, a little bit even negative momentum here, negative 0.015. Not looking so good for me right now. Moving on towards the moving averages, what we get to see is that the stock is getting in towards the moving average. The moving average is actually catching up and the price is bringing down, so that might be an interesting thing. The downside would probably be if it drops down to 154 to around 191. Now it's going to change by tomorrow since that moving average does move forward. But it's still getting in closer. That's a kind of a good sign for me. Moving on now towards, first of all, we're going to do a trend line. So this trend is actually broken around here. It did as well break another trend around here, another one around here. So it seems to be breaking the trend continuously. So the only trend that I would say is probably currently still sustainable is the downtrend from the top. As well as this one here as well. It's going in from the downside. So that might be a little bit dangerous. Now, if we were to look somewhere around here in terms of a trend, that still holds, although there's a lot of sharp fall there, going down to around probably by tomorrow, going 151, 154, 162. That's where that bottom trend would open. Now, some people will say this is a squeeze, although I wouldn't say so, just because the rate of decline here seems to be quite a little, and the squeeze is way far than the price. So it might be very interesting to see. Perhaps on Monday you might get a squeeze, and if that is the case, but I really doubt that's going to happen. Moving on towards Fibonacci retracements now and supports. Fibonacci retracements and supports right here. It seems that the Fibonacci support is at 165. Let's just decrease this just a tad. Okay, sorry, 163. Resistance seems to be 214 for Fibonacci, following 256. Following that, 297. Now, if we're talking about traditional supports, it seems that they created some kind of support today around 193, and it did test it a bit before around here. The next resistance, I would say, is probably somewhere around 211 that is seen here. Somewhere as well around the 233 mark seems to be another resistance. 242, and then we hit to Fibonacci that is confirmed as well, 256 multiple times here, and then I would say somewhere around 281. Now, in terms of the next supports after that would be Fibonacci 163 after this one here, after the 193, and then traditional will be 154, and then hitting 136, and you get to see basically downfall there. Moving on towards the company itself now, and what I've found so far. So first things first is the company actually regained compliance with NASDAQ requirements. Now, I'm not sure why usually I've seen this trend where a company gains compliance and it's as if the catalyst is done, and so the stock drops and people want to confirm their profits. Now, another thing here, they actually as well, this is back in June 22nd, they announced the first patient treated in first human trials and clinical of PTX35, and I'll go that in terms of a minute. Going in a little bit before that, they did have the initiation of that, so that already played through. FDA clearance, we already played through that, and it had a little bit of an update on a COVID-19 vaccine. So there has been an advancement in that vaccine. I'll go a little bit quickly in terms of where that sits in the pipeline in a minute. Now, they did say that they're looking for, we remain on track to complete the design development for our COVID-19 vaccine in July, and expect that our GP96 COVID-19 expressing cell line will be available for clinical grade manufacturing with our partners in early August. I'll give an update on that in a second. This one is a little bit way before, on May 29. So what is the company's technology? So their technology is activating the immune system using GP96. So there's a bit of technical information here. I'm not going to go through it. That's not really my field. I'm an engineer. Going in towards the pipelines that they have an HS110 program going into phase 2. Still not done there. HS130, that's phase 1. PTX35, that's the one that got the news recently. That's for solid tumors. That's hitting in phase 1. And the COVID-19 vaccine is under preclinical. Now, I'm not saying that this one is the one that's going to find a vaccine, who knows, but it's a little bit behind on that race compared to other ones. But still, a PR here might help the stock run, even if it's a COVID-19 phase going to phase 1, for instance. So that would still mark it as a COVID-19 play. Now, going on to bits to their financials, we're going to be comparing the 3 months ended in March 31st, and you get to see that they did have higher revenue, although operating expenses is a little bit lower. So loss from operations was around 5.1 million compared to almost 6 million. So there's been a little bit of decrease. Before we go there, you get to see that they did increase their total assets almost quite to double. Going in from property and equipment is a little bit higher. So I'm just going to skip all that through, and I'm going to go down to the bottom line. So the bottom line here, let's just go a little bit up. I think it's sitting. What I get to understand from this one here is that they do have, let's do quickly cash. So they do have around 17.5 million in cash. Now they do have a balance sheet here. It does say around 20.7 million in cash as of March 31st. So I'll decide to go with this one here just to understand. Now that kind of cash is going on to probably avoid an offering, although the stock price is rallying, and sometimes what you have is companies wanting to release an offering while they are rallying. Now, going on to the December end here, 2013 compared to 2018, and you get to see, let's scroll just quickly down here. You get to see that their net loss per share is 0.60 compared to 0.90. But here's the thing, that's basically based on the number of shares, so that's per share. If you're looking at the total comprehensive loss, it's around 20 million versus 15.6, so it's a little bit worse. On paper, it looks better because of the shares, but they also operated at a larger loss. Now, quickly going on to March, and let's try to find that data quickly. Okay, so we're just gonna go through here quickly. We get to see that their total liability and stockholder equity has increased. Total liability decreased in terms of the long-term liabilities. Revenue, we can get to see here that they have increased in revenue, as I said a second ago. There you go. Their net loss per share is 0.11 compared to 0.17. On paper, again, it looks better, but it seems that they have diluted as well because their number of shares here is their loss is almost the same as the one before, even though it looks like they improved their situation here a little bit better. Now the technicals in between in terms of assets and liability looks better. I'll give him that. Now going on towards the presentation, they do have, as I said, the 4 different things moving on. Very similar to what information I gave. There's a lot of technical information there. One of their main focuses right now is the H130, as it's the first allogenic off-the-shelf cell therapy approach. So that's kind of interesting. You might hear a little bit in terms of different news about it. The COVID-19 vaccine, they've talked a little bit about that in their presentation. And they did say something related to their technology and how they see that the actual they're focusing on multiple SARS-CoV-2 antigens, and the target is to utilize natural immune process to induce lasting memory response. So that's the kind of vaccine that they're looking for. PTX35, so it was awarded 15.2 million grant to fund phase 1 of clinical processing, and that kind of, well, it obviously paid off. Not much going on over there. Now going on to institutional buy-ins. We're gonna do quickly. It's somewhere around here. This stock has been added to Fidelity Extended Market Index Fund. As you can see, multiple of them. Around, I would say, all combined, almost 500,000 shares. On the 21st, there's been some action there. So one of the companies, Sugarloaf, bought 14,000 shares at an average price of 0.70, which is already way below what the price is currently. And then on the 21st, they actually sold, so that could be where that peak was. Not a lot happening. Royal Bank of Canada sold on the 16th of June. Now, insider buyings here looks a little bit dry. Not a lot happening. I mean, the last purchase that I get to see is back in 2016. Now, what do I think about the stock and how would I play it myself? I'll definitely wait until it gets to 163 if I want to enter in. Watch it closely if it still holds that 193, and what I get to see is that it does jump a little bit in the pre-market and then dips a little bit harder. I want to see a little bit of accumulation period, a little bit of it testing a support multiple times without failing, and what I get to see is that it did fail a few times here and there. I want to see a little bit in terms of a bit of stability, a little bit of hype going down before I would like to invest in this more. It's a little bit of a dangerous play for me per se, but it might actually be worth it to hold at least for overnight, for instance, and get to see what happens in the morning. Now, if the market does see a red day, this one has had the trend to see a red day. But for instance, today did jump a little bit down below in the evening, and that seems to have happened quite a bit, and the stock has followed through. What do you think about this ticker? Make sure you mention it down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and you have a wonderful day.